Hey, it's Damon the Drone Boss, another episode of the Drone Cast. And we have Bryant here, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Bryant Ford, and we have a business that's called BKF Aerials and Images. We do a lot of construction progress. We do commercial and real estate development and listing performances. We do the 360 iGuide virtual tours, as well as we do drone virtual tours.
Yeah, and now on that, since that was the last thing there, this like the virtual tours, Scenescape 360, which is combining aerial, essentially aerial virtual tours with ground virtual tours and combining them together.
Right.
That's fairly new with the technology that we've gotten.
That's right.
And you've mastered that and have a lot of clients that get to benefit from that now.
We do. Yeah.
Right. Super cool. Now you got to do some really cool projects, and let's start with some of the real estate stuff you've done. So what are some of the things you do? Obviously, you do the Scenescape 360 for real estate, along with all the regular ground and aerial imagery and videos.
I've had a lucky opportunity in that I first got into real estate in Dubai doing the villas on the Palm Jumeirah, and that was about 10 years ago. But since then, we've progressed through working in Saudi Arabia and doing construction progress on elevated metro stations where we used the drones to document the progress of the construction going on there. And then subsequently, we've come back to the States, and we've been working in St. George, Utah for about 3 years now. And I've had the opportunity to work with major celebrity homes that are up to as high as $8 million, where we do the documentation of the commercial real estate as well as the residential listings for these large economical luxury homes that have been a great opportunity and just a lot of fun to do these homes. And when we do the virtual tours with the homes as well as taking the night photography of the homes, we get those homes listed and they sell very quickly that way.
Yeah, and I think one thing that a lot of realtors don't understand is the opportunity when you incorporate aerial imagery and the Scenescape 360, where you're tying in aerial and the grounds. I mean, we're seeing agents increase their listing appointment conversions by 300%.
Yeah.
So instead of seeing 10 potential clients and getting 2 or 3 of them to actually list their home with you, now they're getting 7 or 8 from that same effort.
Yeah.
You know, not to mention selling the houses faster and for more money, getting more referrals.
Well, and we find that the National Association of Realtors has got statistics that a lot of buyers want to see the 360 tours of a home before they talk to a realtor, and that way with a 360 tour of the home or the virtual tours, they can see what the neighborhoods look like. They can see what the home looks like much better than just the still photographs. So they can target better and spend better use of their time by focusing on those homes that have those media features.
Right. And we know that nowadays that people base their experience on the internet of the home. Based on that, if it's a good experience, then they'll actually go physically look at the home. But if they don't have a good experience, or the pictures aren't good, or the tour's not a good tour, then they're not even going to go look at the home.
They won't even look at the home.
Yeah. And one of the things that really sets you apart from other drone operators is you're using AI in the sky and the drones, but you're also using LiDAR equipped equipment for doing your tours, your Scenescape tours, your virtual tours.
And that's the exciting thing about the LiDAR system with the iGuide. It enables them to get floor plans that are measurable, as well as they can get vertical measurements off of the 360 photos that are included in that. So they want to know how much clearance they have under a window or something like that, whether they can fit a couch under it or something. They really enjoy that feature.
Yeah, because you have the benefit to the end user is that real world, ability to measure. So you could measure the windows or this spot on the wall. Can I actually fit my 100-inch TV? Will it fit there?
It's like this screen behind us. How much clearance is from this bottom of this to the floor? That can be measured off of those virtual tours.
Yeah. And that's something that the end user, the client, the potential home buyer can easily do right
exactly.
From the comfort of their home.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. And then that kind of segues over on the construction or the commercial real estate side of it, because now that those same benefits are there for someone's looking at buying an unfinished building, and they can measure out exactly what they're going to build out, how much flooring they're going to need, how much wall, I mean, everything.
Yeah. Or if it's a commercial facility, like say it was a previous restaurant, like I did one that was previously was a fast food restaurant, and now you want to know what can fit in there, what they have in terms of existing facilities like grills or fryers or some of those kind of things. They can look at that and say, yeah, that's about this dimension. That it doesn't necessarily show on a floor plan, but they can measure how long that grill area was and can it be usable for their new equipment.
Yeah. The technology just, it blows my mind, even though I know it intimately. It's still, what it can do. And like x-rays, where you can, before, if it's a residential home, before the sheetrock goes up, where you can go in and do a whole, with a LiDAR-based system where now you've got 100% accurate representation of where every pipe and support beam and stud and everything is, so you know exactly what's there and where you should be drilling or not drilling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And all that. And I know some home builders are adding that as a value add to the homeowner when they buy the house. Look, you get in addition to the floor plans, you get this digital, X-ray shot of it, which is pretty cool.
Which is good. Yeah.
Yeah. Now on the construction side, so you've done a lot of construction stuff, and you touched on it where you did some amazing stuff in Saudi. What can you kind of walk us through that and the real benefits for the builders on that and the investors?
Well, there's a lot of things that come as a result of my career. I mean, my career previously was a project manager, and so I was involved with the construction from OSHA and the safety regulations as well as construction progress. I mean, your clients always doubt what percent complete you are. But if we have a good way to document that, and of course, when you have facilities like elevated metro stations, you can't take a good set of pictures from ground level because the station's 25, 50 feet above the ground. So using drones was a prime thing that we were able to do, and we continue to use the drones now to take the aerial photographs as well as the aerial virtual tours that a drone can give you with the overall capability of that site. And we can even use the mapping drones that will give you the capability to calculate the volumes of soils or backfills or whatever that had to be added and or removed from construction sites. So we can do those kind of features as well and give the engineering and the survey teams those opportunities to be able to compute and calculate how much volume of earth has been moved in or gravel or asphalt's been completed or whatever.
Which is invaluable because that's something that would now you can do literally in hours what used to take days even weeks, to be able to get that done.
I mean, if you take something like a 67-acre area that's a whole brand new development where they're doing the earth moving machines, and you want to know how much soil's been moved and or added into this area because it started out as an uneven field, then or you're cutting out part of the hillside. That is where this is extremely valuable now compared to what you had to do manually with surveyors before.
Right. And which all equates to more money for the developers, right?
And saving money.
Yeah, because the saving money is profitability, right?
Profit.
If they're not spending it. And same thing goes like for just the basic inspection, like you're talking about the elevated area. What were their options before drones?
Well, the options before drones, obviously, sometimes they either didn't do it, which is typically the case, because if they did do it, they had to maybe pay for helicopters to come in and do it, or they had to take a lot of time to do it manually in the field.
Building scaffoldings and support.
And of course, the nice thing about these drones, these high-end drones, you can program their flight paths, and so you can get a repeat flight path every month, and you can document what went on every month. And so if you have questions by OSHA or environmental or anything like that, you can see that from the aerial views of the drones that you flew monthly and documented what you did.
Right, which is great because now you can avoid potential any kind of
fines
infractions
or
fines
or anything like that.
And if there ever, God forbid, was some kind of accident, you've got documented visual proof that the construction site was compliant with safety gear and and tie off points and all the stuff that's there. Which is huge. And then also the bank draws. This is probably another huge thing to keep them, instead of having to wait 3, 4, 5 a week to have a bank inspector come out. And then now you can submit these and get these
Well, exactly,
progression
because
things.
monthly construction reports are not necessarily just to show the progress of the project. It's to get the bank draws that you need to continue to make your payments to your subcontractors or to your salaried people that you have working for you.
Yeah, and oftentimes those can be delayed out for several days or even weeks.
Yeah.
And this just streamlines that and makes that much
So you
easier.
can get your bank draws and get your construction progress payments.
Yeah, and which keeps the project on time, on progress, and doesn't hold anything up.
Exactly.
And probably investors too, because I know lots of times they would fly, many projects, you fly investors out at different stages of completion.
And they want to see what's going on.
Yeah, it's their money. So
Whereas this way, you can now send it to them because you have well-documented videos or aerial photography of the site and what's going on, as well as the internal construction progress.
right, which I'm sure they love, because instead of having to invest 2, 3, 4, 5 days of their life and go traipsing around a muddy construction project, they get to see it in 30 minutes in the comfort of their home, and they are probably more apt to want to invest in future projects with that developer using this technology.
Exactly.
Than someone else.
Exactly.
So pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty exciting.
It's amazing.
So what would you say to anybody that's that hasn't, maybe someone that's either on the real estate side or even on the construction side that hasn't really explored or used this technology? What would you say to them if they were on the fence about using it and the benefits?
Well, from the realtor side, we know the market is a little bit slower right now because of the interest rates. Maybe were introduced to the mortgages industry, but yet a lot of people are still buying homes for cash. And the bottom line is the more information you give to potential buyers, the more information they will have and are able to make a better decision about listing the home or going to see the home with the realtor, so that the realtor can sell them those homes faster and make more money on the deals too.
Yeah, that's true. And it's one of the things I love is that it really seems, especially on the real estate side, recession-proof. Because if the market is really hot, right, then the big emphasis when the market's really hot is it becomes, for the realtor, is to get more listings.
Yeah.
How can I get more listings? Because when the market's hot, the houses are going to sell like hotcakes anyway. But you want to have the lion's share of the houses that are selling really fast. And this tool, even though you might not really benefit so much from the videos and the pictures as far as the listings go, but it gives the realtor that added advantage when they're sitting down trying to win that listing appointment. And so that's a huge thing. Now, when the market slows down, then they do need to have buyers have more options. So now you have to build up the marketing side where they have the Scenescape 360 and they have the virtual tour and they have the professional photography and they have the videography, so they can see that. And so, that's for us on our end, it doesn't really affect us either way.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a benefit there.
Yeah.
Now, on the construction side, for those people that haven't, because I know on the real estate side, depending what report you read, 7 to 9% of the listings are using aerial shots. So for realtors, you basically have 90% of your competition is not utilizing this technology.
Yeah.
On the construction side, it's less than 1%.
Mm-hmm.
So, most of their competition is, and so it makes it really easy to stand out. And besides just standing out to investors and for future projects, just the efficiencies, that you get. What would you say to those guys that aren't utilizing it yet?
Well, one of the things, a lot of people are always reluctant to do something new, or maybe they're reluctant to pay for the services. But the same token, if you've ever had to go into a lawsuit, or if you have to argue or justify to get your construction payments, when you have better media that shows, hey, here's the photos, here's the video, here's where we actually are at on the construction. If I say I'm 75% complete and they're saying, we're only going to pay you for 60% of your work, well, that has a major impact because you've got to go out and probably borrow the money. So You're paying interest on that money. And of course, with interest rates up, that's losing profit to you. So the objective of having better documentation when you present construction progress enables you to get better construction payments and faster construction payments, because then the banks will trust you more, because when you say you're truly at 78 or 90%, they know you're there because you've got the documentation to prove it.
So it actually ends up, even though I think it's making the shift for a lot of construction companies where they're looking at this as an expense. This is actually a cost savings.
It is, because,
feature.
like I say, time is money, and if they don't get their payments in a timely manner, then it costs them more in the interest that they're having to pay for their construction loans. And because most contractors don't finance things with cash out of their back pocket, because that's not the smart thing to do.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, awesome. Well, Bryant, this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad you came by.
Thank you.
If there is a construction company that wants to reach out to you and find out how they can introduce efficiencies and actually become more profitable with their projects and more compliant, avoid OSHA audits and stuff like that, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, our website is BKF Aerials N Images.
Okay. N, not and, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And S on aerials and S on images. So
okay, great, and we'll put a link in the description.
Great.
So people will have that. And it's great having you here, and excited about what you're doing in the industry. So, guys, until next time, you take care and fly safe.
thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.